you compare this roster with the opening day roster from last year. I was just looking at it, and it's really Howie's just done a remarkable job reshaping, especially the areas they really need to reshape: wide receiver, linebacker, cornerback, and edge rusher. So it's to do all that, what he did in 1 year is pretty impressive, and I like the roster a lot.
Welcome back, everybody. Happy Wednesday, one and all. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Barrett Brooks, Derek Gunn, Rob Ellis. We are joined by our next guest. He does unbelievable work for NBC Sports Philadelphia, a phenomenal writer who's covered the Eagles, I think, since the inception in 1933. I think you can follow him on Twitter at RubeNBCS. Reuben Frank, what's happening, Rube? How you doing, my man?
Gunner's just waiting to rip on me. I could.
You can see that smile, that devious smile. You're muted, Gunner. You're muted, man.
Look, time out. Rob said it. I said nothing. I just laughed.
You wrote it. You wrote it for me. That was
Rob said. I was going to say since the Eisenhower administration, and then Rob says 1933, and I'm like, come on, boom, slam dunk.
I got to say one thing before we start. You guys just had an ad of all the bands coming to the casino that you're at.
Ocean.
One of them is the Rascals, and the Rascals are one of the most underrated bands from North Jersey, from Garfield in Bergen County, right near where I grew up. And
how do they know this stuff?
Yeah, man.
Rube knows his music.
I was thinking about going to that, and it's two of the original members. So Eddie Brigatti and is not on this tour, and Felix Cavallari is, and Gene Cornish is. Dino Danelli is not, who's one of the great rock drummers ever. But if you guys, you got a little hookup,
we'll take care of you. Parting gift for Rube for the appearance.
So anyway,
we get to make that happen.
Rube, do you still go around a lot to and watch a lot of bands and stuff? I know you used to love doing that, and every now and then you would sit in and play the
keyboards, man.
Yeah. I actually played with my friend's band, the Tisberries from Philadelphia, on Saturday at over at Pretzel Park in Manayunk. So that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, and by the way, your backdrop is killer today, man. You get the link and you're behind you, beautiful clouds there. Not a little shot at 995. Love it.
The clouds are photoshopped, but
so are the cars driving by. Yes,
it's a better scene than last night. The same scene, you would have seen a lot of Michael Bublé traffic backed up 95 South. So
yeah, one of your favorite group. Yeah.
I sat in on keyboards with Michael actually as well. So.
We're gonna have Barrett do some Bublé later in the last segment, so it's gonna be our special.
Man.
So Rube, I'll ask you what I asked Derek and Barrett in the first segment. Anything that came out of yesterday, aside from the trade, which we'll get to in a second, from a cut or keep standpoint, surprise you?
Not really. The safety, the Anthony Harris thing and the trade that was the big surprise. I mean, Josh Sills over Jack Amp. You could look at a couple little moves, but for the most part, this was a roster that was pretty etched in stone going into cuts. It was just a matter of, we kind of knew they were going to keep Josh Jobe as the last cornerback, and it was pretty clear, pretty cut and dry. So they have the roster. Opening day is 11 days away, and go play football. So it's really, you compare this roster with the opening day roster from last year. I was just looking at it, and it's really Howie's just done a remarkable job reshaping, especially the areas they really need to reshape: wide receiver, linebacker, cornerback, and edge rusher. So it's to do all that, what he did in 1 year is pretty impressive, and I like the roster a lot.
Real quick before your question, Gunner, the Eagles have signed Ian Book to the practice squad, quarterback from the Saints, Notre Dame.
Wow, Notre Dame, yeah.
Ian Book to the practice squad. Sorry, go ahead, Gunner.
Yeah. Even speaking with the offensive line, how surprised were you that they didn't keep Jack there? Because I really thought I didn't think Josh Sills had a better camp than Jack Anderson. I thought he had a pretty good camp. I really didn't get anything or vibe of anything from Sills. He's a big kid, 6'5", 320 pounds. But other than that, I didn't really see him do anything in camp. Did you see anything that would have, made you go in that direction to think that?
Yeah, I mean, Sills always stood out to me in one-on-ones. I thought he had a good camp. I think the difference between him and Anderson is that he's a guard tackle and Anderson's a guard center.
Okay.
And for what they need, I mean, they don't need a backup center. And, they have a pretty good one right now. So I just think that the versatility of being able to swing outside, tackles in general are more valuable than guard and than center. So I think that was really the difference. Sills is, like you said, he's a big kid. Him and Anderson both had good camps, and I think they went with the position versatility in that case.
Reuben, let's talk about the big trade, man. On the heels of Harris, Harris is a byproduct of this thing, but they go out and they make the move to get Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Get a seventh back. They give up a fifth and a sixth in 23 and 24 respectively. What are your thoughts on what he brings to the table? And do you in fact think he'll be dropped right into that safety spot? Is there any chance he plays any nickel corner? How do you see it shaking out?
Yeah. Number one, the fact that Jay Jaw indirectly, played a role.
Yeah. Tell us about that. The time.
Yeah. I mean, it's complicated, but you get a player for Jay Jaw and then you flip him to the Titans for a six that could be, I mean, we don't know which six will end up going to the Saints, but certainly having that extra six either way makes you, more able to make the deal. So, and not only that, you're hurting the Saints by taking a starter from them, and that could hurt their draft pick, or hurt their record, which will help their draft pick, which the Eagles get. So it's just such a Howie Roseman move. There's so many little shapes to it, and little, just little nuggets.
Nuances, yeah,
big time.
He's a chippy guy. He's he plays on the edge. He's got a little attitude to him, and he's a playmaker. He's young. He's 24. Anthony Harris is 30. So you're getting 6 years younger there. And more of a playmaker. And the question is safety. And I think they have some flexibility. You can always move Avante to safety and play Gardner-Johnson in the slot until maybe you see if he gets more comfortable at safety. He has played safety, but he's played mainly in the slot. But in this defense, those two positions are pretty interchangeable. Yep. There's a lot of overlap between nickel slot and slot corner and safety. So look, he doesn't have a lot of time to acclimate to a new defense, new teammates, new coaches, and a new position. It's a lot to ask. So it'll be interesting. They don't have a lot of options. I hope they don't put Kayvon out there because he has not been very good. I like Epps, but even Epps is he's never been a full-time starter. So it's an upgrade, but that position is still kind of, you hold your breath because they have a lot of guys in new positions and new roles and new players, and it might take a while to come together.
Devin Allen, the practice squad for the Eagles. Devin Allen, FYI.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey, Rube, what did you think of Nakobe Dean in the limited amount of times we got to see him in the preseason games?
I thought he stood out in the Jets game. You didn't see a whole lot from him the other two games, and honestly, he's been quiet in practice. I think it's, he was so ballyhooed coming in, and he's a very smart kid. You thought you might see more playmaking on his part. I don't think it's necessarily concerning just because he's still a rookie, and they are in a position now at linebacker where they have the luxury of not playing him that much off the bat until he gets more comfortable. And TJ Edwards has been great. I think Kaiser White's been really good. So they have some off-ball linebackers that they can trust. Davion, I don't know what happened to him. I thought he played really well last year when he started 6 games. But
me too.
Just didn't have a good camp. And man, that Miami game, that was hard to watch. I had him on my roster just because he's a 3rd-round pick in his 3rd year. I didn't think they cut him, but you could have made a case to cut him, and I think they'll still look for some depth there. But as far as Nakobe, I think it's fair to say he's a little behind where I thought he'd be, but he's a young guy. I think he's 21.
Very young. Yep.
And he's going to be a player. It just might take some time.
Well, let me ask you another guy, talking about, he's a rookie last year, 6th-round pick, Kyron Johnson. He didn't flash to me at all this camp, but he ends up making the 53-man roster. Why is that so? You know, I mean, is he that good of a guy? I know. I mean, I did a couple of his games last year in college football, and he showed he had juice. He just didn't show it in camp this year. You know what I thought he was going to do. What do you think is the reason why they kept Kyron?
Yeah, I just thought he was really active. You know, he can run. He's physical. I like what I saw from him. Like a lot of those guys, you just saw him get better and better as camp went on, and by the last, you know, maybe 10 days, maybe the last week before Cleveland, and then the joint practices, he was really flashing. I thought just around the ball, and I think he's going to be a great special teamer. I mean, he's got all the tools to be a really, really good special teamer. Just likes to mix it up, physical, fast. So, you know, you play him there. You don't really need 3 Sams, but you know, that's a position where you can really get some help immediately on special teams.
Reuben, you mentioned something about age, right? I'm fascinated by this. Other than Bradbury, who's 29, they add a young Hassan Reddick. They add a young AJ Brown. We just talked about how young Chauncey Gardner is. You know, Kaiser White's still 25 years old. They brought in impact players who are still like maybe not even in their prime yet. That's one of the more remarkable things about this offseason.
Yeah, I just was breaking this down last night. The team by age, they got so much younger. They cut 4 guys in their 30s, which is interesting to me, and 4 other guys are 27 or older, which is really unusual. Usually, it's the young guys getting final cut. Mm-hmm. They only have 4 guys? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys on the roster in their 30s: Fletch, Slay, Lane, BG, and Kelsey. And then, you know, something like 73% of the roster is 26 or younger. So
that is crazy.
It is. And, I mean, that's one of the things that analytics has told not just the Eagles, but every team, is that the younger you are, the healthier you're going to be. I mean, just guys in that 29 to 33 range get hurt. It's just a fact of football. And you can get guys who, you know, as long as they're good, who are in that, you know, 23 to. I mean, Jalen Reagor's still the youngest receiver on the team, which is crazy to me. He's still 23.
That is unbelievable, man.
You know, so, I mean, so many key guys on this team are 25. I mean, Jordan Mailata is 25. Miles is 25. Sweat's 25.
Dickerson's young. Yeah,
that is crazy.
Hey, 23 still. So, yeah.
Rube, what should we make of the Miles Sanders situation? My biggest concern is, once again, the durability issue, and it's already a concern before they even kick off a new season. You know, how much can they count on this guy? I mean, a hamstring is a tricky injury, as you know, just like a high ankle sprain, so on and so forth. But, you know, what do they do with the running back situation? Do they bring another back in as well for insurance policy, or what?
It's a great question. I think he's fine. I think the fact that they didn't keep Huntley tells you that Miles is 100%. They're just kind of keeping him in bubble wrap till the opener. It'll be interesting to see if he practices today. I think most likely, and we'll be over there in a couple hours, I think most likely he'll come back next week. And I think they feel like Miles is the kind of guy you can just put him in there. And, I mean, he's so talented. Somebody tweeted to me and said, you know, what is he? I don't know what he is. And, it's hard to define him because, I mean, he's got the 8th highest rushing average in history by running back. You know, so he's like his rushing average is higher than every Hall of Fame running back other than Jim Brown. So the talent is there. I think he's a really good runner. I think he became a lot more disciplined last year. He hit it instead of kind of swinging things outside and you know, dancing around. His percentage of losses was cut in half last year. So he cut down his percentage, and I think it was from like 23% to like 12% of his carries went for -1 or less. So that's really big for him because, you know, he would get like a 9 and then a -4, and that's not really helping the team. So I like Miles. I think running backs get hurt in general. He's still got the 11th most starts by any running back in the league the last 3 years. There's not a lot of running backs that play every game and every down. So I like Gainwell and Boston Scott. I just think Miles Sanders is potentially, if he can stay healthy, a Pro Bowl back. And he did his rookie year. He was healthy his rookie year. So the last 2 years have been have been tough. But, I think and look, you have a decision to make with him, long term with his contract, because this is his last year. But I just think he's such a talented kid that you give him every chance to be healthy, get to opening day healthy, and see what he can do. And I really like the player, but if he can't stay healthy this year, then I think you have to move on.
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting back, and I'm thinking, Harris is definitely going to be on the squad, and then I just kept seeing 46 flash all day long. Reed Blankenship just flash. I think he's going to be one hell of a special teams guy, and I think that's what really won him over as far as him being on this squad. What was that a big factor? Because Harris never played this preseason. Except with the exception of the first game. Then after that, he really couldn't show what he could do. Did you think they made that decision earlier on and just kept him out to keep him from being hurt? Or, what really turned their mind into going in a separate direction from him? Was it the fact that they got, CJ with the trade, or, was it, already done beforehand?
Well, it's interesting because, they didn't give him a big bonus when they signed him. I remember saying on the podcast with Dave Zangaro, Eagle Eye podcast, they could cut him just because the way his contract is. They could cut him at any time. And I think it was just, if we can upgrade the position, we'll cut him. And we won't have a cap hit, and we'll get better. If we can't find another safety, then we'll keep him. So it's kind of unusual to have a guy who took all the reps with the ones and was a starter last year to get cut. But I don't think it's shocking, maybe a little surprising. He's not a great player, and he never really was the playmaker here that he was in Minnesota.
Right.
He was okay. I don't think he was bad, but you never really would notice him. Like, it would be like the game would end, he'd be like, did Anthony Harris play? Like,
I felt that way about both safeties last year, to be honest with you, Reuben.
Yeah, I thought Rodney by the end of the year was playing pretty well. It's funny, his last snap as an Eagle, his last regular season snap, was that interception of Taylor Heineke that got the Eagles in the playoffs.
That was a big one. Yeah.
And I like Epps. I think Epps is pretty good. But it's an interesting situation. I would have kept Rodney, but, he's in Indy now.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, Reuben, obviously there's a lot of debate about Gannon and whether or not he had the tools last year. They upgraded that side of the ball in a massive way, as we just recounted here. What's your sense? What's your sense of what the defense is going to look like, and are you a believer in him?
Yeah, I think he's a really good coach, and I think people will see that last year. And you think about how much they've upgraded, at so many positions, really at every. Let me just see if I have this here. All right, so here are the guys that are no longer here who played, who are on the opening day roster.
Okay,
Harrigan, Avery, Singleton, Wilson, remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Rodney McLeod and Steven Nelson. And here's the new guys: Blankenship, that Barrett just mentioned, Blankenship, Bradbury, Jordan Davis, N'Kobe Dean, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Josh Jobe, Kyron Johnson, Hassan Reddick, and Kazir White. How can you not be better? They're better at every level: edge rush, linebacker, safety, corner. Look, if they're not a top 10 defense, Gannon should not be the coach of this team anymore.
That's right.
Yes.
Amen. Yep.
Agreed.
But I think they will be, and I think we'll see. I think he really values versatility, guys who can do a lot of things. I think the big key for this defense, and Barrett, you tell me what you think. They're going to be going back and forth from different fronts, different looks. Takes a really intelligent player to be able to do that.
Yes, absolutely.
Not just versatility, but you need that ability to just kind of click and say, all right, I'm not in a 3-4, I'm in a 4-3. My whole role is changing. So that mental side of it's going to be challenging for these guys.
It absolutely is.
I think that's going to be a big key to how this defense plays.
Rube, that's very underrated, because they're not going to just be doing this series to series. They're going to be doing from play to play. And it takes a special type of player to do that. I think that's what made the defense that I played with up in Pittsburgh. They would go from running a 2-gap system when their guys would be, when you 2-gap, you got to hit your line and you got to hit the offensive lineman, and you got to stay right there. You can't just go, because that gap right there is keeping that guy from getting up to your linebackers, and the linebackers were made to make the plays. But then you would see they would go in, and then you'd have Harrison on one side, Then they have another pass rush on the other side, and now these guys got to get up the field and pass rush. You got to be a special player to turn it on and think, all right, I'm one gapping this time, or I'm two gapping this time. That's gonna be pretty hard for those guys to really bounce back and forth. But if you can do that, it's hard for an offense to deal with that because you don't know whether they're going to be two gapping, one gapping. Can you get to the back, or are you not? Will you be able to do the offensive line? There are so many rules that you have to go through just by where a guy's lined up at, and they can really put a lot of offenses in some hairy situations because you don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's a key. That's a key to me to this defense, big time.
So, Reuben, after all of this, the dust is kind of settled. We kind of know what it is. I know there could be some more claims and practice squad guys at this point, and we'll let you go after this. We appreciate you hanging for a couple minutes. But what's your sense here? We've seen with the Cowboys, they've dealt with some injuries. They've also lost some people. Washington's sort of tough to handicap because with Wentz, it's kind of a challenge. And like the Giants were at a disadvantage and they're super banged up. But how do you read the NFC East right now?
Yeah, I think the Cowboys have been a real roadblock for the Eagles. There's been years the Eagles were better on paper, and they can't beat the Cowboys. They haven't swept the Cowboys in 11 years, since 2011, since the Dream Team. And I think Romo missed one of those games. They started some undrafted rookie or something. So some of those games have been the meaningless, end of the year. But you don't give up 50 points anytime you play the Cowboys or anybody. So they've got to figure out a way to beat that team, especially at home, where they've lost 7 of the last 10. In this building right behind me that you guys are looking at, I think on paper the Eagles are better than Dallas, but they've got to do it, and they've got to find a way to beat that team. They got to find a way to beat Dak, get pressure on them, cover their receivers. They don't look. They lost a lot of guys. They lost their left tackle. They lost a great receiver, a couple of good receivers, including one that killed the Eagles in that last game. But I think the Eagles are the team to beat. But Cowboys they're formidable. They still have the better quarterback until Jalen proves that they don't. And I think most positions the Eagles are better, but there's something blocking the Eagles from being able to dominate that team. And I mean, the last 3 times down in North Texas, they've lost by 20 points each time. So. I think that's the key to everything is those 2 games. And if they can, even if they split, they have a really good chance to win the division. If they sweep them, they'll win it going away. But they got to contend with that team, and it's been a long time since they have.
Real quick question: do you consider Washington the most intriguing team in the division? Not because of Wentz.
That last one was the last one. I'm not going to answer your. No. Honestly, I really do. I'm so curious about that team. I'm curious about that quarterback because he has talent. I don't care what anyone says. That dude has a lot of ability. There's just, it's just that one play on 3rd and 6 when he decides to throw it over his head or something. So if they can manage it, and I know Ron's going to have that defense. Ron Rivera defenses are always good. It's going to come down to that quarterback, and I have no idea what to expect from him. I don't think anybody does. But you look at what Carson Wentz did from week 4 to leading up to those last 2 losses they had against the Raiders and the Jaguars. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the league over that span. Week 4 to week 16. He had the 3rd highest pass rating in the entire NFL. So there's something there, and if he could ever just kind of like the difference between Brett Favre being a Super Bowl champ and being like this guy throwing 40 interceptions was very small. But Carson's kind of facing that, and he's got the ability. He's just got to get rid of those brain lock moments that have dogged him his whole career. And I don't know if he can, but if he can, they'll be dangerous.
Rube, we appreciate it, man. We will check out your work on Twitter at RubeNBCS, of course, NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com, and your Eagle Eye podcast. Yeah, with Dave Zingaro. And unfortunately, you got to hang with Barrett sometimes. But we all have our crosses there.
There you go.
Yes.
I'm doing my head over to Novacare, Barrett, just to avoid you. So.
Rube, we appreciate it, man. Have a great rest of your day.
Be good, dude.
Hey, another move here. Deion Kane to the practice squad.
Yeah.
So Devin Allen, Deion Kane, no real shockers right there.